and welcome to the Delusional Boyfriend Book Club. My name is Courtney, and I'll be your host. And today I'm joined by two guests from my favorite webcomic / BL podcast, the ComiQueens. Hello, Alex and Annie.
Hello.
Hello. It's so good to have you guys here. I have you in my ears while I'm working, and it's just like been such a pleasure to become actual friends with you guys. So thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having us. We're so excited.
So can you guys, just to kind of introduce you to my audience, can you guys tell me a little bit about your podcast and a little bit about your webcomic journey or your BL journey? How did you start reading this specific kind of niche genre of Korean, Japanese webcomics? How did you guys get to this point? And who is your number one favorite delusional boyfriend?
So, we've given this so much thought. To start out, I guess for my journey specifically, my husband had really pushed me to read webcomics in general. He was super active on Webtoon. He was like, I just know that this is going to be for you. And he had already convinced me to get into anime. I was like, am I getting too nerdy? And I was really reluctant, but I ended up finding Devil Number 4 on Webtoon, and I was hooked. I was like, I need money right now for all the coins. I need to unlock this. And I mean, to this day, still such an incredible story. And then I just became a monster.
I've
I was
never
like,
heard of Devil Number 4. Can you give me like the
oh, oh
briefest
my gosh.
introduction?
Yeah, it is so good. It's about this girl who is really struggling through life, and she is kind of just like living in this rundown apartment. It has a leak in her room and she's just ignoring everything. And really her like main goal in life is just to like survive at this point because she feels like she's drowning. And this devil or this demon who is like number 4 in command is like, hey, I can grant you whatever wish. You just have to, give me
Ooh.
your soul, and it's fine. She goes, I just want to like make ends meet. And he's like, well, that's no fun. And so it's basically about him trying to convince her to like live a little. Like she makes the agreement for basically nothing. She's like, I want a solid roof under my head, like over my head. I don't want to struggle anymore. And it's about this devil being like, you deserve more than that, basically, and helping her to find the enjoyment in life and obviously falling in love because I read primarily romances.
Oh my God, I love it. Just like value your soul a little bit
Ugh,
more, and I'll
it
give you
is
anything you want.
so good. And literally, I mean, I was just reading all of these webtoon, then I got a subscription to Manta, and as soon as I got the subscription to Manta, I was like, wow, I really have just dug in my heels here. Read a story called My Dear Maid, which unfortunately um there was something something unfortunate happened, but it ended so bad.
Oh my God.
Well, I literally was like, I feel like I'm gonna scream and like punch a wall. Like it ended so abruptly. It was supposed to be a love story between this woman and this like prince who was posing as a priest when they first met, and she had just been kidnapped. And then out of complete nowhere, it was just like, I don't love you, the end.
What?
And I was so mortified. I was like going on Reddit. I was like, is anyone else reading this story? I couldn't function. And then finally I was bitching to Alex about it. I was like, Alex, I have to tell you, I've gotten in deep with these webcomics and I'm literally having the hardest time. And then I found out Alex was reading them too.
Oh my God, that's crazy. And what a canon event to have like one of your first webcomics completely disappoint you and leave you distraught. Like we all have that story that we're like, and that's how you're gonna fucking play me.
I swear to you, I don't know that I've ever been burned so bad. Like since then, that was like at least I got the worst of it out the gate, and then it's been like smoother sailing, but
Mhm.
it was really rough. So it was nice to know Alex and I have been friends for going on 13 years. So to find out that we were like both getting into it, super great.
It's
Not surprising.
it's
Not
crazy that Alex
surprising.
hadn't already told you, like, that you guys didn't already know you were both scrolling on your phones reading these webcomics. That's so funny
Yeah.
to me.
I
Yeah.
know.
So for me, I found Lore Olympus and I found it like just a random ad for it somewhere and started reading it. And then it was like, hey, you should go to Webtoon and read it on here. So I went to Webtoon, I made an account, found Lore Olympus, and started reading it like obsessively. I think I read it like 3 times in a row before I even ventured to anything else. And then I also read Devil Number 4 on my own. And then another one that I read right away was Siren's Lament.
Ooh.
So those were kind of the three. Oh, and what was the other one? The dragon one that we both read.
Oh.
Sub-Zero, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So I was reading those 4 and I was like desperately looking for other things that were like Lore Olympus that were not Lore Olympus. And if you do you know what Lore Olympus is? It's a
It's so
really
funny
popular one.
because I started listening to your guys' podcast at the most recent episodes and I'm working my way back and you guys just talked about how you've already like budgeted and decided on getting, is it the hardcover limited edition Lore Olympus volume?
Yeah, I have completely gone down the rabbit hole of
Obsessed.
I started buying the hardcover Lore Olympus volumes as they were coming out. And I was buying a mix of the regular ones and the Barnes and Noble exclusive covers, and then realized that if I was just gonna buy a mix, I might as well just have both
Both.
complete sets. So now I am the proud owner of a ton of Lore Olympus books.
That
So
is
technically, we
insanity.
could do a buddy read next to each other with just the copies you own alone.
It's true.
Oh my God, that's so funny. And then from what I can tell from my end, you really do love like the mythology of it all because you
Yes.
were also the one who picked up Innate, right?
Yes, I love Aeneid. I own that as well as physical copies as they're coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I just love like I got into Aeneid because I liked the Greek mythology one so much.
Mm-hmm.
So we went down a little rabbit hole. We went to see Hades Town a couple of times. And while we did that, we did special episodes where we were reading specifically Greek mythology stories, and there are a ton out there. So it was actually really fun to find different ones. My personal favorite is Hades and Persephone. Those I just like love their love story from Lore Olympus is like the first time that I really saw it. And so just like right off the bat, I read 3 or 4 different Hades and Persephone stories and then, started branching out from there.
I love when the hyperfixation is so intense that you like refuse to leave the parameters of it.
Yeah, that is exactly what happened. So then the like birth of our podcast was when we were going to the Children's Museum with Annie's family. And so it was myself and Annie and her brother-in-law in the car. And we were just like, this was when we had discovered that we both read webcomics. So we were just talking. Annie was telling me about Finding Camellia, and her brother-in-law is in the back. He doesn't read webcomics. He doesn't really like comics. It's just not a form that resonates with him. And so he's like just kind of chiming in and giving us random facts about random things that kind of relate to it. And he's like, "You guys should have a podcast." And then Annie ran with it.
Mhm.
I love suggesting that you guys should do a podcast and you guys just being like, bet.
I leaned in so hard. I was like, let's make a schedule. I've got the mics. We're good to go.
I'm like, "Okay, I'll learn how to do audio editing."
And I was like, it's going to take me a couple years, but I'll start social media eventually.
Oh my
Also, we're
God.
like big data nerds too. So like we created a spreadsheet so that we could keep track of what we're both reading and what we want to suggest to each other, reading statuses. Like I created charts that automatically update with like the stories that we've both read, the percentages of like where we are with different things. So if that just doesn't say who we are, I don't know what does.
I like need access to those immediately.
I swear, like when I look at them, I'm like, have we gone too far yet? Like, have we? It is nice though. Like at a glance, you could be like, have I read that story? Look up the title. Nope, haven't read that.
Yep.
Add it to the list. And we have a physical list.
Yeah.
I love that you guys are, it's like when you and your best friend come up with the secret language and it's just gibberish to everybody else, but you guys have this like full secret language between each other of all of the stories you know each other will love and the stories you would never recommend to each other and the ones you've both read. And it just, listening in on your podcast, it makes me feel like another best friend in the room. And I just, that dynamic is so fun and so special. I feel the more and more I listen to it, I feel like I'm starting to speak the language too. And it's just like, it's such a fun dynamic to be a part of and to like follow the journey of. I cannot wait till I get back at far enough in the episodes to hit the Greek mythology ones and like hear that journey as it plays out.
Oh my gosh, I swear, like there really are so many good stories and I'm sure you know, like running a podcast is so difficult, not just because of all of the prep and everything that goes in behind it, but trying just to like focus in on reading one thing when there's so much out there to love and appreciate. It really that's like the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
For me, like what you said about reading Lore Olympus 3 times through, that was kind of the dynamic in my own brain that I had to fight against and why the book club made so much sense to me. Because I was like, if someone doesn't force me to move on from a story, I will wallow in that story until I'm rotted to death. Like I will never move on. It will be the only thing I talk about. When I first read Low Tide and Twilight, the way I could not force myself to read any other story and I just kept rereading and like nobody could compare to Teju for me, and then I just had to like have a actual sit down come to Jesus with myself and be like, Courtney, there's other stories. You're gonna feel like this about another boy. You must move on.
And oh, how right you were.
And oh, how right I was. And so it is nice with the podcast to be like, okay, even if you want to sit here and hyperfixate on this till you die, you're not allowed to. It's time to move on to the next episode.
I will say that is like the best thing about boy loves is there are so many different varieties. I feel like when you're reading, a lot of times you'll come across all the same tropes, the same things done the exact same way. And when you love a setup for a story, you don't necessarily mind that.
Yep.
But I feel like with the boy love stories and girl love stories as well, they just have such complex storylines throughout and they're very dynamic that it just keeps things so interesting from start to finish and you find something brand new every time.
Yes, and the like the art of it all. Like I initially starting this podcast, I was going off of romance novels which don't have, usually they've just got the cover art on the book, and I usually hate like if it's a picture of a real person, I always hate it. A lot of the times I don't love the kind of like cartoony art style, or it'll just be lettering, like it'll just be words on the front. And
Mhm.
I was starting this and starting like my anime journey, and I was like, oh my God, every anime has like one extremely hot Gojo character. That's my delusional boyfriend. And then when I found BL, and I was like, wait, wait, wait. You're telling me there's not a single Uggo in any story? They're all fucking hot as hell. They are all of them ripped. They're all beautiful. They're like all of them are both like masculine and also hyper feminine, like beauty. Like they've got the face of a beautiful woman and the body of a cut man. Like my bisexual panic just goes crazy in every story. I was like, why would I ever pick up a book with a picture of a real man on it on the front and no additional art inside? Like BL completely took over my brain because it was like, if you want boyfriends, we got more boyfriends than you're gonna know what to do with.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. Our first boy love that we read, it was the same for both of us, I think. We
I
both
think
read
so.
Semantic Error.
Yeah. At your recommendation, I started reading it because you were describing it to me. It was like 5 in the morning and you called me to talk and tell me about this story. And I was like, I am gonna have to read it. And originally I got on Manta and was like, okay, I'll just read the free episode a day because it was when they had the daily pass that you could read. And then immediately was like, I can't wait. I have to get the subscription.
Oh my God, that couple is so cute. And we were talking off air about doing a watch along for the live action. And I'm just like committing you guys to that already. Like, we're going to do a buddy watch. We're watching Semantic Air, the K drama, and then we're going to come back on here and talk about it because that was one of my first BLs. And that couple, there's just something about them, like, pushing each other's buttons. Everything about that dynamic completely convinced me like this genre was going to be it for me, because there's one thing when like a man and a woman are at odds, there's all of this like pretext and baggage that kind of comes with that, will they, won't they. But when it's two men who are like on the same playing field, who by all means have like kind of told themselves that they're not options for each other, watching them fall in love, like there's just that certain kind of spice. It's just lacking from a lot of other stories. So it's very funny to me that Semantic Error is so universally appealing that it was kind of one of all of our first BLs.
It is so good. There's just no beating enemies to lovers for me, really.
Mhm.
Like, if we're talking tropes, it is my absolute favorite.
I do love that. I love a forbidden love though. I think that's my favorite.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
feels very whimsical. That feels very
It
you.
feels like me.
And it feels like it's gonna make you cry, which just checks out.
Yeah.
And on that topic, so if your favorite trope, would you guys say your favorite tropes then are um, enemies to lovers and forbidden love? Would you lock in with those answers?
I think I would definitely lock in with that.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, what would my all-time favorite trope be? Oof, I don't know. My favorite trope has got to be like any kind of BDSM trope. And it's like,
Courtney.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just like it is what it is. Anytime we find a character, and it's probably not for nothing that one of my very first BLs, I would say, okay, I think my very first BL was 1 to 10. And that one,
So good.
yeah, it's like so funny, so smutty. And I think I read it only because I was so obsessed with Sato Sugu, and I was like really obsessed with Gato from Jujutsu Kaisen. And I was like,
Mhm.
I saw an ad from Legend and I was like, oh my God, this character looks like Gato. I should read whatever a webcomic is, I should read it. So I read 1 to 10, and then I was like, oh, I want a character that kind of looks like that top. And what was the next thing it suggested to me but fucking Jinx? So
Ooh.
I read Jinx, and once I had binged Jinx, I was like, what the fuck is this genre? This is so
What a
this is so unhinged. So then my next story after Jinx had to be the author's other story, BJ Alex.
Oh my gosh.
And
When I tell you that BJMD is my Roman Empire man
when
of all BL webcomics,
I tell you that I just bought like
I love him.
a custom wood etching of Chan Woo.
Because he's perfect.
I mean, they're perfect. And when I read that story and that, and like, I don't give a damn how accurate the BDSM like representation is to real life dynamics. BJMD is everything. Chan Woo is everything. The story itself is very memorable for me because it was one of my firsts, but that couple is all time like top tier for me. I don't know who will ever be able to knock them down a peg. I am obsessed with them. So that's probably my favorite trope. Who would your guys' number one delusional boyfriend be, with that being said?
Here's the thing, you're asking us to narrow it down from reading like we have to have read at least 400 series at this point.
I
Oh my
would say
God.
so.
And so Alex and I really did deliberate offline, like had a legitimate conversation in a car ride about it. And ultimately there was no narrowing it down to one, but we did find a solution.
We're gonna
Okay.
have a reverse harem with both of us.
That's so appropriate for a podcast that also covers reverse harem romance novels.
um, and yeah, I mean, there are so many hard hitters, but we have to go with top 3.
Okay.
Dushik, Jason, Sungho.
Ooh, wait, Sungho from
Painter of the
Painter of the
Night.
Night.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
He
So
could paint me. No.
that's Pearl
Whole
Boy,
night.
Painter of the Night, and The Ghost Nocturne for everybody who's listening. And I read The Ghost Nocturne. I'm not finished with it because I started to get so much anxiety from the fate of a character. But the other two, Pearl Boy and Painter of the Night, I would say would you guys agree? They're kind of unanimously like the two of the most popular BL stories in all of the BL fandom.
I mean, yes, I will say, like you mentioned Jinx, and when it comes to like
Popularity.
content creation, I feel like Jinx is like definitely the most talked about that
I'd
I've
say,
seen.
yeah, but Pearl Boy and Painter of the Night are also up there.
Yeah, they're definitely up there. And I will say, like, for good reason, they're like the best toxic boy love stories out there.
I think the Black
And
Flags go right to the top of popularity almost always.
I mean,
Yeah.
heavy emphasis on like the trigger warnings
Mhm.
abound for
And
all of them.
I mean,
But
for us, Dushik and Sungho are morally gray.
because we have our own color coding system.
Does that include removing any red and black flag designations from your favorites?
No, I mean, we can recognize a red flag. So, Damien Von Thies from Betrayal of Dignity. That is another one of our favorite stories.
I
And
will roll that red carpet out for that man.
he is the reddest flag, but we still love him.
Yeah. I mean, you got to give people credit where credit's due.
Hmm
Not everyone
Absolutely.
gets the redemption they need, but you love them anyways.
What I love so much about you guys is that you had the option to like pick your own delusional boyfriends, and like the twins from The Shining, you just held hands and were like, oh no, they will be the same.
Honestly,
That's how we go through life.
it really is.
It's just so fitting because if you listen to the ComiQueens podcast, you guys are known for finishing each other's sentences and having the same brain. So I just love that you would pick the same delusional boyfriends. It's like, it's the only thing that makes sense for you guys.
Literally nothing else in this world would make more sense to
Yeah,
us.
we will have a reverse harem.
We looked at each other in the face. We're like, how do we choose between the 3? And then we go, you know what? We don't.
We don't have to.
Actually,
It's our delusion.
this is called a why choose, and we're not gonna.
We're willing to share. I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
So
I know that's
yeah.
really only 1.5 delusional boyfriends on average for each of you. So you almost did the assignment.
Yeah, we almost did it. So like maybe a C for effort.
That's so funny. Okay, so now that we have established your delusional boyfriend, at the end of this review of Acanthus, we will determine whether or not any character from this story has dethroned them. So, with that being said, we're going to start talking about the story that we buddy read. It was Acanthus. It's available on Legend, and which you guys pronounce Leeson, which I do love.
It's the reason for the season.
It's the reason for the season. So you can find Acanthus on Legend, Leeson, whatever you call it. We had a couple different stories that we tossed around for this one, but I was kind of in the mood for a darker story. So the tropes for this are going to be revenge, kind of a love triangle, dark romance. We've got like spy slash deceit slash hidden identity going on. We've got trauma. It is censored. It is kind of rough. I would put that tag on there. And then we've got like a crime and punishment thing going on. And I will say that I looked up what the flower theory for Acanthus is, because I was like, the name has to have some significance. And this is what Google will tell you. It says, Acanthus flowers and leaves primarily symbolize enduring life, immortality, and resurrection. They are also associated with pain, sin, and punishment in Christian symbolism due to the thorny nature of the leaves. So when we think about that, the pain, sin, and punishment, I think that's definitely what this story is leaning into. So for like,
I think too, like
Mhm.
the resurrection part is
Mhm.
definitely
Mhm.
in there as well.
I'm not gonna lie. Didn't know an acanthus was a flower.
Did you know a crocus is a flower?
Not until your husband told me.
I love that you saw the cover art for this with the big purple flower and the name Acanthus, and you were just like, don't know.
I'm like, all right, let's see what this is about.
I bet those dots don't connect.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first story that had pretty flowers.
Yeah, the investigation just not there for me.
Just not there. So
Take it at face value.
Yeah.
I was really excited going into this knowing that on the cover there was also 3 people because I'm usually really afraid of a love triangle, but will also say that I'm quite the fan of a threesome in a story. So I had high hopes.
Thank you.
I had very high hopes for that.
Yeah.
We want everyone to be in love with everyone.
Yeah.
Exactly. And while I did say love triangle, you guys did not hear me mention any kind of throuple in our tropes. So, little spoiler alert there. I didn't exactly get what I was looking for.
Yeah. Honestly, though, I don't feel like there was anyone in this who I would have put as
No,
a throuple with them,
no.
but I do love that as a plot line. And I mean, if every love triangle could have a worthy throuple, I would be happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just one moment for a threesome in every love triangle would ease the pain of the angst just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It really would.
So for like a kind of spoiler-free summary for this, we've got I'll run through our characters really quickly. So our main character's name is Nagi. He lives with his roommate June, and they're from an orphanage together, so they've known each other basically their whole lives. We've got a figure from their past named Chairman Kang Ilho, and I will tell you he's one of the villains. We've got the other part of the love triangle whose name is Mr. Song. He is a pimp figure in this world. We've got the main love interest that has everything to do with the revenge plot, and he is the son of that initial villain I talked about. So his name is also Kang. His name is Kang Hosu. We've got Chairman Lee, another villain, and we've got Miss Choi, another villain. So the characters in this story are abundant, and many of them have nefarious intentions with our main character, Nagi. So, the kind of spoiler free summary is Nagi, who comes from an orphanage, was abused as a child by a benefactor of that orphanage, and he has made it his life's mission to get revenge on that man. And the story deals with what do you do with all of that malice and hate in your heart if the object of your hatred dies? So the villain from his past is gone, and who will he choose to take that anger out on now? So that's the kind of spoiler free summary. It's a little bit of a spoiler because that guy does die from his past, but I thought that concept was really interesting. How do you let go, and can you let go of a revenge plot you've poured your entire soul into? So, with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Alex and Annie to do our full spoiler filled breakdown. If you guys have not read this story yet and those tropes and the spoiler free summary sound good, pause this episode, go read it, and come back for the rest of the breakdown because we're not going to hold anything back.
I love this one. I'm so excited. So, to start out, we do have the story open up with Nagi. He is having a nightmare, and the nightmare is basically reliving his past, where the benefactor of his orphanage is coming to his room and checking to see if he is asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, doesn't show you too much of what's going on there, but there are definitely insinuations. And poor Nagi is really struggling through life. They're not really making ends meet. He's unable to function just from the pure trauma that he's had to endure throughout all of his childhood. And his main goal right now is trying to find witnesses or other victims to come forward and testify about what happened at the hands of this chairman, because unfortunately he ran away from the orphanage and all of his documentation that proves that he was there has been completely destroyed. So that's basically his last hope, is to try to find someone else who can. Unfortunately for Nagi, he does find out that no one's really willing to come forward. Most everybody who went through the same thing as him is really just trying to move on.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
really interesting because his roommate, Jun, he also is telling him, you just need to move on. Like, you
Yeah.
can't keep going down this path of revenge. All of the people he's trying to reach out to are like, I just want to forget that this ever happened. And then this is kind of a spoiler for later on, too. You kind of find out that the worst of the worst happened to Nagi, and like everyone else, like while they were abused, he had it like the absolute worst out of everyone. And so he has to come to terms with that as well, of being like, I was the victim of all victims here.
Yeah.
I really love in a story when the trope is a character who absolutely everybody is infatuated with and everybody is in love with. And unfortunately for Nagi, he is that character. And it seems like since his childhood, he's been this objectified figure for the people around him. And due to his beauty or whatever, he's singled out by these other people. And so oh my gosh, it's just so tragic. This attention that nobody ever asked for that he just cannot escape. And it does seem like all of the other victims were not the favorite victim. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, he was, which is just so fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real way to come to terms with that.
Mm-mm.
And like you want to see Nagi come to this moment of peace, and he just can't. He can't let it go. It was his entire life, really.
Yeah.
And he has been betrayed by anybody he even wanted to trust at this point, other than June,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
who even still he can't really open up to, or be extremely open and close with. He constantly kind of pushes June away, and he just can't accept that love from everyone just because of the fear that something else could happen.
June is trying to get him to move to the suburbs so they live in the city after Nagi finds out that Chairman Kang is dead. June tries to get him to leave. He's like, all right, look, like, he's dead. There's nothing else we can do. I've got jobs for us. Let's just get out of here and like move on, start over. And Nagi really pushes. He's like, no, I'm not going with you. I'm going to stay. And there's a heartbreaking moment where he
Mm-hmm.
tells June that he'll never love him. And I was like, okay, we're starting off strong.
Oh my gosh, that moment broke my heart. The unreturned like affection was so hard for me, and also it's hard for me to see Nagi, who like the one person he should trust in his life has also taken an interest in a way that he cannot reciprocate. And it's just like, can anybody just be there for me who's not trying to like sexualize or love me or romanticize the situation? Like, is nobody just seeing me for who I am? Even my best friend wants something more from me than I can give. So
Yeah.
it was hard.
I almost feel like though that like that's from his point of view,
Yes.
and probably like June really does just truly care about him as a friend and like wanted to take care of him and has been taking care of him since they were children. But like from Nagi's point of view, he can't see that because all he can see is how everyone else treats him. And so he just kind of like puts that on June as well.
Yeah. Do you guys not think that June actually was in love with him?
I think that there's definitely love there
Mm-hmm.
for Nagi. I don't know that it's a romantic love as much as like a you are a part of my life
Yeah.
kind of love. Like we want to stay together, not to be romantically involved as much as I just want to see good things happen for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's his eternal protector. And I think that there are feelings there, but I think there are feelings that June would be like so happy to put aside in order to prioritize whatever is best for Nagi. Like, even if he does have feelings and he thinks he's beautiful and he wants to be by his side forever, I think June would put his own needs aside to make sure that Nagi got whatever he wanted out of life, whether that's revenge or somebody else. And I think Nagi knows that deep down as well, is that this guy only is his best friend and will do anything for him, regardless if it's the best thing for Nagi. June will support him.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's very similar to like a cornered dog situation
Mm,
almost, where like obviously June would be the hand trying to feed him, and he just can't see that because of all of the hardships he's been through already.
exactly.
And it's just so sad. You as the reader know that there's true care for Nagi. Like you see the way June takes care of him and shows his love for him.
And you can see it too when June finally has to make the decision of I'm going to leave. Like I can't watch you keep doing this to yourself.
Oh,
And then you see how even Nagi then is reflecting on how like June was the one feeding him and taking care of him and was always at home waiting for him. And so he's really starting to notice those like things that were happening for him are now gone.
yeah, that moment where he is like, "Oh, people who live alone often stop eating breakfast because they have nobody to eat it with, and I haven't had breakfast since June left." And that was so hard for me, but also it is that growth that that character needed. If he was not pushed out on his own, if June didn't insist on leaving and trying to turn over a new leaf after. Oh, did we say that the chairman passes away?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah,
Mhm.
after he passes away and he decides to move away, leaving Nagi by himself, that's truly the push that Nagi needed to like figure out what path. That was the fork in the road where he decides what path he's going to take next, not relying on somebody anymore to take care of him. He truly does kind of grow up in that, or he's forced to start growing up in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the path that he decides to take is to just double down on the revenge and say, all right, well, my abuser may be dead, but he has a son, and I think that the son is just as bad as he is, and I'm going to take my revenge out on the son.
Yeah, to be fair, it's not really his own seed that he planted as much
Mhm.
as the pimp who is also trying to be involved with him, kind of like planting that in his head of like, you can always pass this on to someone because someone has to take the blame for what's happened to you.
And
And
that person has
so
their own
interesting.
ulterior motives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so interesting coming from somebody who's obviously not doing something with pure intentions in mind.
Mhm.
So Minu Kang is a very interesting character, mostly because he's got his grimy hands in a lot of different areas throughout this story. And I mean, he's made Nagi's life hard for a while. You find out that he basically is the pimp who set Nagi up with clients when they were trying to make ends meet. And he is actively trying to push for Nagi to do this again while being like, I mean, I guess if you don't want clients, like we could just, be intimate together and that's fine.
I need to know because we briefly talked about this, but then you hadn't finished the story yet. Do you end up liking him?
I can't tell you that. We're not even halfway through the story,
Okay, and
Alex.
I
I'm
need to
dying to
know.
hear what you guys think about this, but can we all agree that he's fucking hot?
Well, okay. I have the worst problem with immediately falling in love with anyone with a scar or a
Yeah.
neck tattoo.
Yes.
So, like, I was doomed.
Yes. Oh my God.
Doomed.
He is
But
so
when it
hot.
comes
Facial
to,
scar, the snake tattoo. I
Yeah.
usually don't believe in blonde men, but I was here for it.
here's the thing, like, I think it's impossible to think he's not just absolutely gorgeous.
I don't know.
But when it comes to the character, I don't know. You'll find out what I think later on.
I better find out. I don't know. I
Throwing
don't
me.
think like as far as looks go, I definitely liked Hosu Kang more.
Yeah.
If we're just going, I mean, like, if we were taking everything else out and going based on looks and it was like,
Mhm.
you know, we're swiping left or right on them, I would definitely be swiping on Hosu.
Here's the problem, I'm swiping on both of them.
Oh, yeah.
They're both
You have to
beautiful.
pick.
Yeah, pick
No, I
one.
don't.
Yes, you do.
Pick one.
I didn't even have to pick for the delusional boyfriend. I don't have to do
I'm
anything.
making you
You have
pick
to
now.
pick.
I'm making you pick now. It's their dating
Yes.
profile. You
It's
you
2
don't know
against 1. You have to pick.
you know nothing about their personality, nothing about their profession. You're just looking. And for the listeners out there who haven't read this, our other love interest is like a dirty blonde looking politician, clean cut businessman in a suit, a little like giving kind of daddy. And then our pimp character has a facial scar, blonde hair, and covered in tattoos. So we've got definitely our bad boy and our clean cut good boy. Who do you pick, Annie?
It's Minwoo. I can't not choose him. I'm so down bad for a face scar.
Oh yeah. I'm also
can't help it.
swiping on him. If I see one dating profile and it's a man with a facial scar who's conveniently leaving out what he does for work, and I see another one who could clearly provide and support for me, I'm going to make the wrong choice every time.
I think that's a perfect way to describe exactly how your guest spot on our podcast went.
Yeah.
If you guys, okay, so we just got done recording a dating game episode over on the ComiQueens podcast. So please, if you're listening to this, go subscribe to the ComiQueens podcast and listen to the guest episode I just did, because kind of notoriously I have a little angel as a husband, but he is the only good choice in men I have ever made in my life.
I mean, look, we gave you the greenest flag and you completely ignored him.
I like kicked it. I curb stomped him. Took the other way.
Oh my gosh. You know what though? I can't even blame you because here we both are choosing Manu. So
Yes.
Not me. Yeah, I'm going Hosu.
well,
Alex
good
is
for
like-
you.
Alex is like, I don't want a man who can take me on a trip abroad, not a man who's going to sell me into sex work.
I mean, hey, he gave the option of we could just do it together.
Here's the thing. I just love a pretty boy, and he is so pretty.
He's very manicured.
very
He's very
polished.
perfect. Yeah.
If that just doesn't fit me, I mean,
Yeah, it's very true.
Okay.
Oh my
so
gosh. But Minu,
we've
red
got
flag.
where are we? So we've got our main character Nagi forced to decide if he's going to carry out his revenge plot, and this pimp from his past has said, listen, I think you should just ruin the whole family. If you can't ruin the man who hurt you, ruin his son. And his ulterior motive is that somebody else has already set him up to take down the new chairman, which is the son of our original villain. So if he can get Nagi to do the dirty work, he can kill two birds with one stone and barely even get his hands dirty.
Yeah, and he's pretty used to getting his hands dirty. So he's like, I could take a break. It'd be nice, little vacation. He does, out of the kindness of his pimp heart, decide to get Nagi a job at a local coffee shop called the Acanthus.
out of the kindness of his heart, aka that is where Hosu goes to get coffee every single day. So he's trying to make him notice Nagi.
Very
And
convenient.
it works.
It does work. He notices him.
He notices after they have already been introduced, they do very quickly realize Nagi's going to have to try to switch something up so it's not as suspicious that they met at the funeral. And then he's also just working now at his favorite coffee shop. So Nagi kind of cleans himself up, gets a haircut, whatever else. And Hosu is immediately interested.
Yeah.
In
He
Nagi.
also pretty immediately is like, you are the same person.
Oh yeah, he clocks it right away. But we've also seen a like hidden camera footage of Hosu hooking up with a man. And I will
Mhm.
say that initially when I saw that guy, I thought it was our main character. So he does have a type, I think.
Definitely has a
A
type.
clear type. And our main character is a very slender, petite, beautiful brunette, like almost black haired. And yeah, in order to disguise his identity, he parts his hair and puts on some glasses. And I'm like, all right, Clark Kent, we're not trying very hard, are we?
Let's be realistic here, Nagi. Okay.
He's gonna, yeah.
But Nagi is working at this coffee shop. He's genuinely putting in a good effort. Trying to learn how to make the coffee because Hosu has already made some moves being like, you're making me my coffee next time. Little flirty side eye. And so Nagi is genuinely trying to learn how to make the coffees and like be good at his job.
Yeah.
And it really just kind of gives him kind of a purpose. That's where we see that, like, even though we know in the background as the reader that things are not great and that the reason he's there is because he wants revenge, we're like, oh, he's like going and doing a full work day
Yeah.
and like learning new skills.
Well, and Minu too is like, you need to get evidence on him, like, so that we can take him down. And the way he gets evidence on him is, I'm gonna go sleep with him and record it so that I have evidence that he's cheating on his fiance and sleeping with men.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Two birds with one stone.
Now, what a fun
as
way to
he's
kill a
doing-
bird, hooking up with a hot ass man.
What a way. However, Minu again still has his grimy little hands on everything. You find out that the fiance of Hosu is the one who's trying to get all this dirt because she's been pushing for the marriage proposal to go through, pushing to move forward with things. And Hosu immediately clocks this as, you are looking for a meal ticket. You're really getting desperate and you're not going to force me into anything.
Yeah, he really does not want to marry her. I don't even know how they got engaged.
I mean, strategic marriage.
Yeah, it's definitely just like, I own a foods company and you own a foods company, which is just a guise for long-standing crime families. We should combine powers. That her name's Miss Choi, and I fucking hate that bitch.
I would like to just note that I took my own notes and I do have like little taglines next to everybody so I could remember who they were specifically. And Ms. Choi is nasty bitch stinky hoe.
Yeah, nasty bitch, stinky hoe. And I would like to say that I consider myself a feminist all of the time, unless I'm reading a BL. And then I swear to God, every time a woman crosses the page, I'm like, get the hell out of my neighborhood. Get off my grass. I know you're just here to cause problems. And
No,
lo and
it's
behold,
awful. She's so bad. And that's the thing is like, obviously, I love a good female character. She's a terrible character.
Yeah.
You're supposed to hate her.
Yeah.
and in a BL, it feels like they're only ever there to sow drama.
It depends for sure, but we've seen it in a lot of stories. It's just to make things messy. But you do see Minu kind of pulls Nagi aside. They're talking about getting all this evidence. And in the meanwhile, there is this other chairman who was a former client who used to ask for Nagi's services all the time. And he's the desperate one.
He's disgusting.
He is absolutely disgusting, comes to the club unannounced because he hears that Nagi is there and he like cannot stop fixating on Nagi.
Yeah, Nagi's been away from sex work for a while now, and it seems like this was his like biggest client, and this client has been counting the days until he returns. And when he starts to realize that he might not return to the brothel and to servicing him, he is insistent on creating some kind of circumstance to get him back.
Yeah, I mean, it is not good.
Yeah.
However, Minu almost kind of comes to Nagi's defense.
Wait, what are your notes next to Chairman Lee, this villain? If Miss Choi is Stinky Ho, then who is this?
Nasty old guy.
Likes Nagi.
Saggy balls should get away from Nagi.
Saggy ball, bitch. No. No, the absolute worst. But Minu does kind of stand up for him. He's like, oh, not today, Chairman Lee, you need to leave. That doesn't keep him from, of course, leaving Nagi or Minu alone. But it's pretty awful how obsessed he is with Nagi. In the interim, however, Nagi does catch Hosu's attention, and Hosu eventually is like, hey, you know, Mr. Jung will let you leave the coffee shop. You should come back to my house. Because why not? That's like a normal thing to do, right? Like a customer invites you back to the house. during your work shift and you leave work to go there.
I loved this guys because he had caught Nagi trying to spy on him under the disguise of being like a gas maintenance man who
Yeah.
was coming to check on his house. So in this moment, he's already on to Nagi and he uses the ploy of bringing him back to his apartment so he can show him what really good coffee tastes like. And you can see this character, like, as the reader, I was like, oh man, he wants to call this guy out because he thinks he's spying on him. And he also just thinks he's too cute. Like, he also kind of doesn't care that he might be spying on him.
Okay, we have to talk about though the when he's going and he's trying to put in the recording device and he is using the guise of being the repairman and does get away with it seemingly. His reasoning is wild because he's saying, "Oh, I heard the fire alarm go off, so I got under the bed."
He goes, in an emergency preparedness drill, you get under the bed. And it's like, not in
I
a
was like,
fire drill.
yeah, like that is the opposite of what you want to do.
And Hoku like doesn't believe him for a second. He's just like, okay, have a great day. And then he immediately goes to security and he's like, let me see the security cameras from my bedroom.
Yeah. And then he's like, "Oh, well, I did hear you guys hooking up, but I was like, by then I was too embarrassed to leave."
Which, can you imagine the guy that you're like kind of bound to fall in love with the first time you see him in the bedroom, you're hiding under his bed listening to him go at it with another man? Like, that's just that would be hard.
Sneak preview.
Yeah,
Wild.
sneak preview. It'd be hard for me to get over. I would be bringing that up 10 years down the road. Like, I remember you slept with somebody else and I was there for it. It's like, yeah, you were spying on me. It's like, and still, which one of us is the slut?
Be like, I was not, I was a gas repairman.
I was just scared.
So funny. But yeah, I mean, they do end up, Hosu has Nagi back at the house, and he really does just resign himself. It's very obvious. He knows that there's some sort of ploy happening here. And he's just like, you know what? I'm going to lean into it.
I love too that he confronts Nagi about it, about him being like not really a repairman eventually, and that he knows that Nagi is trying to kind of plot against him. And then Nagi's like, "Yeah, I was, but also I like you and I feel weird about it and I don't want to hang out with you, but I also do want to hang out with you." And Hosu's just like, "You know what? That seems sincere. I'm going to trust you on that one."
Oh,
Yeah.
that was such a good moment because he goes away. He wakes up. So he has him over for the coffee, and then that's their first hookup, right?
Mhm.
And it is great. Like, I do think the spicy scenes in this are wonderful. And then in the morning, Hosu's like, will you stay for breakfast? And Nagi says, no, gotta go, gotta get out of here. He's afraid that he's gonna be found out. And he goes home and he's cannot stop thinking about Hosu. And he keeps thinking to himself, what if he's really lonely and he needs someone to eat breakfast with? Even if he finds me out, I should go back and offer to have dinner with him because it's just like it's the right thing to do. And I don't want him to be lonely. And even though I'm plotting this revenge against him, like suddenly his feelings are all I can consider. And you see Nagi falling in love with him and like still not quite able to give up the guys. So when he goes back the next day, he's like, hey, I just wanted to see if you want to have dinner with me. I feel really bad I couldn't have breakfast, but if you're up to having a meal with me, let's do it now. And Hosu is like, I'm so happy you came back. I know that you have some ulterior motive here, but I can hear how sincere you are. And I believe that you want to hang out with me. So let's just call a spade a spade. We both want to hang out. Let's just hang out. And like they kind of put their suspicions of each other aside and move forward in kind of in the dark, not knowing what the other one truly wants from them.
Yeah. I famously don't like the miscommunication trope unless it's like a really good miscommunication. So I absolutely loved the fact that they were, even though they both had ulterior motives and hidden intentions, they were both pretty open about it.
Yeah, I thought that that was a great way to not keep us as the reader in that miscommunication for too long, was just to be like, hey, whatever either one of us is looking for here, we can fully admit that there is a spark and there's chemistry, and let's explore that regardless of what else we've got going on in the works. And
Yeah.
it was so honest and cute, and it was the word he used, sincere, is totally what it was. They were just being
Yeah.
sincere with each other.
Yeah, they are absolutely so touching as a couple because they've truly both been burned. Like they're both kind of going through it
Mhm.
in different ways, but they're both really struggling. And so just to see them be able to like, I have no one else to trust. Why not lean into you? Because you gave me a glimmer of hope and honesty.
Yes.
Well, and Hosu too is like going through the realization that his father was an awful person
Mhm.
because during their second sleepover, Nagi has that horrible nightmare where he's talking about Chairman Kang.
Hmm.
And this is like the moment that Hosu was like, "Oh no, like it's worse than I thought."
Yeah. It's it's so heartbreaking that
Yeah.
he's having to both realize the monster that his father was after losing his father. So, like, imagine all of that coming out and having to come to terms with it that, like, this person lived their entire life as someone you didn't even truly know. And then on top of it, the person that you're starting to care for is struggling because they were impacted by it actively throughout their whole life
Oh,
and they knew the monster.
ugh, and to like fall for the person you know that your father has abused is so that's such a crazy reckoning. And then at the same time, he's also trying to go to these orphanages and take over whatever role that they were playing in the orphanages. So he is trying to do a good job at his new job and finding out that most of the work that his dad was steeped in was, marred by this, by his horrible misdeeds. And so he's got also his employees looking into other people in the orphanage, and that's when he finds out that several people were paid off, and he also
Mhm.
sends his guy to go find June and inquire more about Nagi, kind of doing a little background check on him himself. And that is a pretty important connection for the end of the story, is we do have him like reaching out to all these orphans and trying to make better. And it does the kind of question at the beginning of this story, should a son pay for his father's sins? He truly is trying to make right what his father did wrong in the world. So that reckoning and that character growth I really loved for him as well.
Yeah. Okay, I do have a question about June because when the guy goes and asks June about what happened, June gives him a package and says, "Have Hosu open this, he'll know what it means."
Mm,
Do they ever reveal what that is and I missed it? Or is it just never mentioned again?
I think that it's never mentioned again. And I will say that there's like five unanswered questions I have for this story, which didn't really need to be answered, but I felt like the story could have been longer. Did you guys get that feeling?
Yeah, I that one really bothered me. I was like, "What is that package?"
That's so funny. Do you know how fast I just blew around that one?
The one that like got me was him having this. So basically, our top Hosu, he hates alcohol. And when we first see him in like the first chapter, he's reprimanding the guy he's sleeping with for smelling like alcohol. And then later
Mhm.
on in the story, he's talking to Nagi, and he's telling Nagi that he has a really big sensitivity to smells, and that is something his dad hated about him. And we know that Nagi, when he was being abused by Hosu's dad in the orphanage, the dad would take him back to his big old house, and he would pour like this chemical into his bath that made him knock out. So I'm thinking Hosu has an intolerance to smells and an intolerance to alcohol because his dad abused him and used these like th- whatever chemical he was using on Nagi, he was also using it against his son, or maybe using alcohol in order to get his defenses lowered so he could be abused as well. And then it never explained why he hates alcohol. It never explained why he has this sensitivity to smell. And I'm like, that felt so loaded to me. Like it was going to allude to this other element of his backstory, and we just didn't get it.
Yeah. I My eyes just got so wide because I didn't think about the, like, smell connection until you just said that. I mean, it could even be that he was there at home while
Mhm.
this was happening and smelled it from, like, another room.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To think that Nagi could have been abused under the same roof that Hosu was sleeping under as a child. That's like this story really like is crushing in a number of ways, but that idea that Hosu could have been sleeping in his childhood bed and his dad was abusing his future soulmate in the other room is just it hurts me so much.
I know.
I definitely saw the undertones of Hosu also being a victim of his
Mhm.
father's, except the one thing that made me question it was because of the disbelief that he had that he
Yeah,
would do it.
I don't think that he was a victim. And because of that, because he went to all the trouble to have it be uncovered. And
Mhm.
like they even show a flashback of him where he was talking to an employee and an employee mentioned a rumor about it. And he said, if you don't know that's true, don't spread those rumors.
Yeah.
Yep, and also he's, like, willing to take on the family business, and I feel like had he been abused, he would have been more reluctant or gotten himself further away, but I
Hmm.
was like, "Damn, I feel like this could have been 10 episodes longer to, like, really flesh out some of these Easter eggs that weren't quite fleshed out yet." But basically, we have him coming to terms with all of this abuse that his father has affected upon people and then trying to make it right while at the same time the pimp from the past is still running his own game and still trying to get Nagi to come back to the brothel, and not just because he was the primary breadwinner for the brothel, but because he himself, like everybody in this story, is obsessed with Nagi to an unreal level.
Yeah, it is actually pretty disgusting. I think that the way that it's revealed is also so unsettling
Mhm.
because you do see that Ms. Choi still just hell-bent on destroying Hosu, decides Nagi is collateral damage,
Well,
and
she's trying to use this as like
Blackmail.
like to get him to marry her.
Mhm.
as like a blackmail.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just hell-bent on really just having all of this dirt on him. She's like, let's hit him where it really hurts. If he's gonna sleep around with a guy, then his guy can't really mean anything. And she goes to Minu and says, you have to let Nagi sleep with this person, and picks up a homeless man off the street
Oh.
and is like, go ahead.
But then Minu kind of I don't know if he like feels bad in the moment or if it was always his plan, but Minu's like, all right, I'm the lesser of two evils, so I will assault you instead of a homeless man.
Yeah, I mean, the way he tries to play it off to the bodyguards who are tasked with taking pictures as evidence
Yeah.
is no one would believe that this is like a choice that he's making.
Mhm.
And he's like, but I'm hot enough that someone would believe that he was choosing to sleep with
That
me.
he's
Yeah.
cheating on Hosu with me. And so then
Yeah.
he takes that opportunity to fully assault Nagi and under this guise that he's doing him a favor because at least he doesn't have to sleep with the homeless guy. Oh my God, sickening.
He also gets kidnapped by Mr. Lee
Mm-hmm.
as just like, throwing it in there because he hasn't been through enough.
Yeah.
And one thing
You
I
know.
did love, so like between him going through this, so after he sleeps with Minwoo and he gets the pictures taken of him, Miss Choi is showing those to Hosu, and Hosu, like, to his credit, kind of doesn't give a shit. He's just like, I don't know where you got those photos. Do not show those photos to anybody. The person in those photos I love, and I don't know what he's doing with this other man, but like, put that put that phone away, and all I care about is why Nagi isn't contacting me. And Nagi's not contacting him because after this incident, that pimp is keeping him held hostage in the brothel for his own use.
Yeah. Yeah, so he also is a victim of getting kidnapped twice, which we have seen before.
Oh my god.
But I mean, yeah, you're right. Like the greenest of green flags, Hosu just being like, you know what? I don't care that you're trying to bring all of this drama around. All I care is where is Nagi?
Yeah. It's not
Mhm.
like him to not talk to me, so, you know.
What's going on? So he does escape, and the way that he escapes is whoever the like worker is that like harmed Nagi in the past and like was part of the reason that he was kidnapped the first time with Mr. Lee, he feels guilty and is like, okay, I'll help him escape. So then he helps Nagi escape and get away from Minu.
Yeah.
All just for him to like go through it again. Like as soon as he's let out by that lackey, he goes back to work for like a couple of days and then he's kidnapped by Mr. Lee and taken to where does he take him? They
So he like somehow gets Hosu's phone number
uh-huh.
and says, "Hey, meet me at this warehouse."
Mhm.
And poor Nagi's going to this warehouse and he's like, "That's so weird. Why would they have a meeting out here and it's so late?" And I don't know, like I thought that Hosu was going to come pick me up from work, but I'm meeting him here now because his meeting ran long. And then he just gets kidnapped again. And we see too that Minu really comes through this time and helps Nagi escape and then also sacrifices himself so that Nagi can get away. Nagi, however, is like, I'm not going to let you sacrifice yourself. I'm going to come and help you again and goes back to help Minu.
Oh, he
Mhm.
sounds the alarm. And this like dynamic, this person, because Minu does say, like, he confesses to him when he's kidnapping him. He's like, I love you. I've always loved you. The only reason I had you work at the brothel was because I wanted to make sure you made ends meet. And the only reason I kept you around was because I wanted to keep an eye on you. And so, like, in his own twisted way, he feels like he's been taking care of him this entire time, even though he's been manipulating his life and using him, but he
Yeah.
does confess how truly he loves him. And in this moment with Mr. Lee, he it chooses, he's like, I'm going to create a diversion, I'm going to run that way, and I know this is going to be the end of my life, so please, when I die, visit my grave sometime. And he gives up that obsession with Nagi in order to actually do one thing right by him. And when Mr. Lee and his men catch back up with him, they are in the middle of cutting off his leg when Nagi finally sounds the alarm. And who who but our homie from the beginning, June, who has been tracking his location like the best friend, like all of our best friends would. He sees his location is at a warehouse and he's already calling in backup so that by the time Nagi gets away and gets help for Minu, we already have June coming in with the reinforcements.
Yeah. I
True
mean,
best friend.
truly perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I this entire scene, so I guess here is where I will let you know my feelings about Minu because this is like really where he has that change of heart. I still didn't like him. You can look at me as shocked as you want.
Why? Okay. Why?
It doesn't erase everything he did to him. Like I get that he was like, I'm willing to sacrifice myself, but to be honest, the entire time I was like, I kind of want him to not make it.
Oh my God.
And see, okay, this is what I was talking about earlier with our limbo bar of the bar because she will totally forgive Damien for framing.
I fully, at this point, loved him.
Me too. Yes.
I was like, okay, he was only running the brothel as this pimp because obviously he's had this horrible life up until now, and introducing Nagi to that life for him wasn't that like depraved because that was already the life that he understood. So he really did think he was just offering Nagi a way off the streets, and like in his own twisted way, like he did love him and protect him even though he was literally selling him. But I'm like, in his own way he did love him, and at the end of the day, when the choice was between if I can't have him no one can and protecting him, he chose protecting him.
The growth.
You know what? I guess here's my qualm. In a lot of the stories where I forgive the character, their growth is the majority of the story.
Mhm.
Like the bad stuff happens and then they spend such a significant portion working towards their redemption. And those are the people that I usually forgive.
I'm
Whereas,
gonna make
like,
it my personal mission to find stories that is not true, because that is not true. You lying liar.
yeah, I don't know. It was just, I guess, for this one then. But
He got
I
his
was
leg
like,
cut off. What more do you
it was
need?
not cut off. He had his Achilles slice.
That's the worst spot.
Yeah.
It's not a great spot.
We all remember the movie
But-
Hostile. We remember the Achilles.
You know what? I've had foot pain before. I would probably go for slicing off my foot.
If Nagi can forgive him, you can forgive him.
We'll see.
One thing about this love triangle for me was like most of the time like love triangles really hurt me, but there was no point in this story where Nagi loved him back. And so that I love that angst wasn't there where he was like, "Oh, should I pick him or should I pick Hosu?" It was like he knew he wanted
Yeah.
Hosu the whole time. The only love triangle was this guy like kind of relentlessly sticking in there. But he had no chance from beginning to end. But would I like to see him in a spin-off chapter with maybe the owner of the cafe, of the coffee shop? Yeah, I would like to see him fall in love with somebody because he's super hot. And Annie, I just can't believe that you aren't on his side.
He is so hot, but I don't know. Like for me, I'm like, okay, he had one moment. He was also like the person who's like there before Mr. Lee and his men get there. And even still, he's like, you could still work with me.
Yeah,
Like
really.
still.
I feel like that was his test. He was testing him.
To me, like that was, I guess, what specifically set it off. I was like, you know, shit's about to go down, and you're still just like, make it easier for me because otherwise Mr. Lee's gonna go after both of us. And so if we're just like willingly his little bitch, then it's fine. And I'm like, that's not a person who has your best interest at heart.
No, he's
Like at any
definitely
point in the story.
he's out for himself first and foremost. That's fucking
Yeah.
for sure. And
And I can't blame him. I get he has a hard upbringing, but I'm like, I didn't see any redemption other than like, okay, I'll run the other way.
he
now.
was willing to die, even though
Yeah.
all he got was an ankle slice. You're right.
Let's be entirely honest. If Nagi was trying to run away, he was gonna die anyways.
Yeah, you're right. He was dead man walking. He might as well
He was a
make
dead man walking
gesture of
and
love.
even said it.
But he freed him. He didn't have to.
He could have made them die together. I'm the selfish.
We were both gonna die anyways.
He could have left Nagi there.
I'm a
And
selfish
run for
lover. I would have been
himself.
like Wolfgang, my husband. I would have been like, "You're staying right here. We're dying. We're this ship. If it's going down, we're going down
Shit
together."
hits the fan. We're both going through the blades, baby.
Oh yeah.
I am staring so hard right now. And here's the thing. I don't even think he's that hot. I just thought that he genuinely deserved the redemption that he got.
You know what? And here's the thing, like, I'm not saying he didn't redeem himself. I'm just saying that for all of the bad stuff that happens, like you're talking, this is a 41 episode story, and he does not do a single redeeming thing until episode 38, kind of.
And even then, like, he kind of was the cause of that. Like, I think the only reason Mr. Lee had any access to him was because he was willing to rope Nagi back in.
Yeah, I'm like, no, the entire time Minu's like, I'm gonna make Nagi do this because
No.
I could get in trouble. I'm gonna make Nagi do this.
Mr. Lee said he was following him around. He would have followed him around if Minu was there or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm
He
not
had been
saying,
stalking him for years.
oh, I'm not saying that, but he gets him involved in the Ms. Choi
Yeah.
bullshit. I mean, like, he's out for himself first, and I'm like, okay, like, pop off, that's fine. Except for the fact that I don't forgive you, really.
If Nagi can forgive him, then you can forgive him.
Hey, Alex, if Siano can forgive Yuri from Shape of Sympathy, then you should forgive Yuri from Shape of Sympathy.
He doesn't forgive him. He's just brainwashed.
Maybe
You
Nagi
forgive
is
him.
too. Look at all the trauma.
No, he's not brainwashed. Are you kidding me? He has the greenest of green flags right by his side.
Oh my gosh. A lifetime of trauma will do that. to
If
you,
Minu
Nagi.
had his way, Nagi would have never left the room that he locked him up in. So he
200%.
and honestly, I respect that about Minu because if Wolfgang tried to get away from me, he would be locked up in the basement too.
Here's the thing. Is he my least favorite character ever? No. Because my least favorite character ever, I know who that is, and we're not going to talk about it today because that's a whole other episode. But I don't like, in my heart, I'm like, okay, he did a nice thing. I can recognize it. I don't forgive him.
You don't like him because I'm like, do I think Nagi should forgive him? No, but do I like him? Yes. Like by the end of this, I was like, hey girl, like I see you, like I get where you're coming from.
You 100%, Alex, thought that I was going to love him at the end of this.
Yeah.
He's kind of lovable, except for like the full forceful revenge porn he made the main character make. Like other than all the unforgivable stuff he did, he's a little lovable. Like you have to admit.
He's got a nice face scar. I'm not taking all of his qualities away from him.
Oh my god. The one that I'm like, I could take it or leave it.
The one thing.
You're like, but I'll give him a pass. I wouldn't.
And honestly, if I'm gonna get like real petty about it, I don't like his blonde hair.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that he needed darker hair.
I will say that like him at the end. Okay, so after this, June comes in with the full fire force and saves the day. And not only do they like save Nagi and Minu, but they also get Mr. Lee or Chairman Lee, they get him arrested. Everybody is like held accountable for their actions. And then we see Minu goes to the hospital for his foot, gets his foot fixed. And while he's there, he's so handsome that there's like a modeling agency person who's in the same hospital recovering. And they hire him to be a model at their agency. And he grows his hair out long. Did you like his? Okay, because I said it before, I don't really believe in blonde adult men, but I do think that him with his long hair was so pretty. Like it was so pretty. Admit that it was pretty.
Okay. I did like his long hair. I'm gonna need you to explain what you mean by you don't believe in adult men with blonde hair.
I don't believe in that.
The men, the myth, the legends.
Like you don't believe they exist, or you don't think any of them should have it.
First of all, I think if they do exist, they're highlighting it, which I take great qualm with. Okay.
My dad was a towhead.
Okay, towheads are different. White hair is different.
No,
Was he blonde or was
it
he
is a little
Yeah.
different. But it's still, I mean, really, it's just the lightest of light blonde.
Yep.
Yeah.
My friend Dawson, he he's so cute. And he has like white blonde hair, and his sister, my best friend from high school, Leah, she has that white blonde hair. And I understand that it's akin to like albinism.
So you have imaginary friends, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Because you don't believe they exist.
But like a straight up blonde, like yellow hair, like golden boy. No, I don't. First of all, I don't trust you. I don't know where you came from. I don't know where you're going, and I don't want to know. I don't trust you.
This is the greatest plot twist.
I
ever.
sincerely don't. And then the only thing that got me to change my mind was animated characters. So I was like, okay, Naname, like, do I believe that there's a man like you who exists out in the world? No. But do I simp for you and your blonde hair? Yes, I do. And then
Could Nanami Kento wrap his hand around my ponytail any day?
absolutely
100%.
Would I let a real life blonde man touch me? No. But then we make our way into the manhwa men, and there was more and more blondes that I was like, oh wait 1 second. And we've got like the Teijus of the world, which we've already mentioned, and I'm like, I could make an exception for the fictional men. So I have, and I have been burnt by the blonde fictional men. So usually I'm pretty biased and usually pretty shameless about that bias, but this guy at the end with his long blonde hair and his crutches, I was like, you cute. I love you. I love you. I love
He's pretty, but controversial. I liked him better with his short hair.
Okay.
You're wrong on every level.
end of a 13-year friendship.
It's been great.
The tears I would tear.
The way you guys chose the same reverse harem, and this is the character who breaks you up.
I will say, I did tell Alex, I was like, we're not going to talk about this beforehand. It's all just going to be, like in the moment. But the one thing I said, I was like, this story specifically feels like it was on like 1.5 speed to me.
Mhm.
Like each episode could have had like an extra half an episode at
Yes.
least onto it. And I was like, I don't know if that's on purpose or not. I do think that I would have forgiven Minu if it had more like depth to it.
If it had been
I think
longer.
because everything just kind of felt glossed over to me.
Yeah.
I was like, then I'm glossing over it. Like, I don't need to like you.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't feel like it needed more. Like, I was perfectly happy with it as
Yeah.
is. It was like a nice little bite-sized read.
Mhm.
Like, took me an afternoon to complete the story.
Mhm.
And I really like those kind of things where I can sit down and enjoy it all at once.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a time and a place for having like a 300 long episode story, but I also like those little ones that you can just kind of sit down and enjoy all at once.
I like it too. I'm just saying, instead of like 41, if it was like 60.
If it was like 60 and we had a couple of those things fleshed out, I feel like I would have liked the story even more, and I definitely could have liked these characters even more, because even with our main love interest, Hosu, we see him be a little bit like, we see the dynamics of his personality come out when he is kind of like berating that one lover he has in chapter 1. When he is berating him about his alcohol consumption, you can see how dark and demanding he can be. And I would have liked to see like maybe a scene where he was that like domineering with Nagi, because I think those characters are the hottest. And then I also would have liked to see, so that at the end he is talking to like, oh, I don't know. Oh, he's reprimanding somebody for something they did wrong, and he's like, should I chop your body up and bury it all around the place, or should I just throw you in the ocean? And this guy like begs for his life, and I'm like, oh, Hosu, I didn't know you had it in you to be that like authoritarian.
I'm not gonna lie, don't remember that second one.
Oh, it's
I do. It was when he was first kidnapped because the lackey set him up. And Hosu and his men end up finding him. And he like covers him with his jacket and stuff like that.
Yep. And it was
Um,
those two guys who were gonna assault him, and he like walks in on them assaulting him, and he's like, what should I do with your guys' bodies?
Oh, that
Mhm.
part. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
confusing when you
yeah.
get kidnapped 3 times trying to keep them all
Yeah.
straight, but I will say that, like, definitely I could have seen more of his dark side, because otherwise Hosu does come off as this, like, very just kind of perfect character, and I would have liked to see more of his edges, and I honestly, almost every story, I'm like, I could if I like the story, I want it to be longer. But I was like,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
couple unanswered questions, like, what happens to Miss Choi? Does she just give up? Like, because I don't think she's,
I thought she got arrested too.
is she
She
arrested at
did
the
get
end?
arrested.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so there is like a couple loose ends like that where I was like, if it was a little longer, I I would like it even more, because I wouldn't have these unanswered questions.
Yeah.
Also, I always love a side story if we get a slice of life of the two people living happily ever after. So after this like Mission Impossible is pulled off and everybody is sent to jail and Nagi is freed, we know he has a key to Hosu's place. We also know Hosu has several other lovers living in apartments that he rents out. We don't see him break up with those lovers. We don't.
It's
It's
assumed.
Yeah.
but I would take a couple side chapters where it explains that they're living together happily ever after. I would love if they like got a marriage side episode or something that shows them a couple years down the road, because Hosu is known for breaking up with somebody after a year of knowing them. So I'd love to see like a side chapter that's around 2 years and we see that they're still together and they're happily ever after. Like I could do with just
I
one
mean, the
extra
last
bite.
episode is a year later.
Is that what
Yeah.
it's a
So you
year
do
later?
get to Yeah, because he says he's been in the rehab for like a year. And
Oh, Minu.
yeah, so that does happen so we are seeing that there is, they're still in love and everything.
Yeah.
I like personally just fill in those gaps where I'm like, he definitely broke up with everyone. They're gonna get married.
Yeah, I didn't have as much problem with that one. I
Yeah.
was like, no, there's no way. Like, we can see they're in love.
I'm
Yeah.
so
He doesn't
jealous. I'm
have
like,
other
show me
people.
the
I could
receipts.
always use like extra fluff, but I don't know. I like for me, I just didn't need it. Like 40 to 45 is like my
Sweet
perfect
spot.
bite size read. If I want a little shorter of a read, that's what I want.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Ultimately, I really liked the story.
Yeah.
I really did. I just felt like there were moments where I'm like, man, like it really just felt like it built up to this and then it was gone through so quickly. And I was like, man, if they could have like put more angst in to like build up the drama or something else, like I probably would have loved it even more.
Yeah,
Kind
definitely
of
Hosu
situation.
like kind of forgiving any of the spying that's going on as fast as he does. Like I I liked that the miscommunication wasn't drug out, but it was almost like, okay, is it believable that he'd be that forgiving that fast? So I would have saying it was on 1.5 speed is very accurate for my experience because I did think it was just a little fast. But on the other end of things, I just read this yesterday and it was nice that I was doing it last minute and it was so fast and easy to read. So if anyone
Yeah, it's
out
definitely
there
an easy read.
yeah, if anyone's looking
Yeah.
for a short read and like a dramatic short read that has actually like quite a bit of plot going on in a short amount of time, this is a great story for you.
I did absolutely love the speed with which he forgave him for the
I did
spying.
too.
Like I was like, you know what? I'm on board with this. Like we've all openly communicated about what happened. We're moving on.
I do think too, like part of what, and this is kind of where I filled in my own gaps, I think,
Mhm.
is when he's forgiving it so easily. I'm like, you know what? As somebody who grows up as like a Chable in those like really intense situations, it's probably not unheard of to have people trying to dig up dirt on you and whatever else. So he probably just expects it.
Yeah, he does. Like he even says that when they have the whole, "Oh, I can tell you're being sincere." Like he's like, "Yeah, other people have done this kind of stuff before, but I
Yeah.
can tell that you really mean it when you say you want to hang out with me. So I'm going to choose to ignore everything else."
Yeah.
And I can get on board with that.
And I can
Yeah.
totally get on board with the character who is like, oh, I've had people do worse to me and I got rid of them. I got rid of those people. And I could do that to you. But honestly, I like you so much. You can do whatever you want to me. You won't make me mad. And
You can do whatever you want
forever.
forever.
I'm just like that actually in a love interest is peak for me. Just being like, it's my husband's the same way where it's just like, honestly, you be as big a brat as you want. You could be you can spy on me. How cute. I don't even care. Like I still love you. like try to make me
I
hate you.
I do love it. You do see, like, also, this probably made you super happy, Courtney, at the very end, how Nagi is like appreciating how beautiful Minu is as a model.
Yeah.
He's like, I mean, he really is made for this. Like, he's cut out to be a model. And you do see the jealousy trickle in with Hosu, where he's
Mhm.
like, you're not allowed to say that around
I do love
me.
that part. I love it's like a non-serious jealousy.
Yeah,
It's like a we are solid in our relationship, so I'm gonna tell you that you can't talk about other people like that.
but I'm gonna do it because then it gives me an excuse to be like flirty and kind of,
Yeah.
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 And then also he like is so not jealous of June that he's like, you guys go live together. I have some business to sort out. And he's like so trusting of Nagi in that way that he's just like, oh, I have no questions. I trust you completely. And I'm like,
Yeah.
hell yeah,
Yeah.
massive, massive green flag.
It was just so beautiful to see two very hurt people find each other and build each other back up again.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, is that how have we hit on everything at the end of the story?
I think we have.
Yeah.
Oh, that means it's time for my favorite part. So, with all of that being said, of these characters, who is your guys' delusional boyfriend from Acanthus?
I'm letting Alex go first.
Oh, I was gonna let you go first.
No.
Wait, okay. We'll do it at the same time.
Rock, paper, scissors.
No. Okay, ready? All right. One.
Oh, I'm going to count down. You guys have no choice. Okay, ready? Okay,
Okay.
at the same time. 1, 2, 3.
Mr.
Hosu.
Jung.
Mr. Jung, really? We didn't mention him like once.
Yeah, I mentioned him once.
Who the fuck is Mr. Jung even? Oh, that's the owner of the cafe.
Cafe owner.
Blonde.
Yeah. Okay, do not. There were so many blondes in this series.
Oh my god, you're ridiculous. Okay, why?
I don't know, the way he handled that coffee machine was pretty great. Also, he was the least problematic of literally any of them. He's just like out there living his best life, running a cafe.
I respect this choice so much when his only worker calls out on him, and instead of arguing, he's just like, okay, looks like I'll do it all myself.
Yeah, Hosu's like, I want to take you back to my place. And he's like, hoo-hoo, you go ahead and do that. Have fun, Nagi. When he's like, I didn't show up to work for weeks, he's like, it's cool.
I'm not gonna lie, that surprised me.
That surprised me. I didn't even remember that guy's name, let alone consider him as
What?
an option.
Was it the hobo?
At first, I thought it was the guy. I thought it was the guy who was doing the background checks. I was like, is this Hosu's like bodyguard who went to meet Jun? Like, did I forget his name?
That would be a funny choice.
That would be a funny choice.
Yeah.
I will say my close second was June because I just felt so bad for him.
Because you love a red-haired character.
Oh my god, don't I ever.
You guys, you just brought up my delusional boyfriend. It was June, and the whole time I was just like, the man has taken care of you his entire life. He would let you fall in love with anybody else and be completely happy as long as you're fine. He cooks. He cleans. He's just adorable. When I first read the first chapter and I saw him, I thought it was the other character's mom, and I was like. If a character confuses me, if they're a man or a woman, you know I'm down bad already.
Oh my
You know what though?
gosh.
And I mean this with all of the love in my heart. Definitely after playing our blind date game, that surprises me a little bit.
That's the thing. 99% of the time I have horrible taste in men, but when it really comes down to it, like somebody who will love and provide for you, like you gotta. I couldn't choose Hosu in this series because he's just like so prim and proper and blonde, and I couldn't choose Minu because he was just like so dirty and like conniving and blonde, and then June,
I
who is
think
just like
we found a type that
is, like,
maybe isn't your type.
hot
Yeah.
redhead who's like living his suburban life out, and I would let him take care of me. Absolutely, I fucking would.
Just like imagine June with like the Reba theme song in the
Oh
background.
my god, I can't imagine it.
A single mom who
He's
works
literally a
jobs.
survivor.
Kids and never stops.
That needs to be an edit right now.
He's a survivor.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I think good choices all around. I definitely could have chosen Hosu, and he was my third choice.
Boyfriends, would you guys date your delusional boyfriend from Acanthus in real life?
Like separate from our reverse harem?
Yeah, completely separate. If this man appeared IRL, you're not married, and he's looking at you, do you take him up on his offer? Do you not?
Yeah, I would.
Even if he's a pimp? Are you kidding me? Are we talking about him as a model at this point?
I chose Mr.
Oh,
Jung.
that's
And I
right.
chose
Nobody
Hosu.
chose Minu. Literally nobody chose Minu. He's a horrible choice. Okay. The cafe owner, Mr. Jung, would be a perfect IRL boyfriend, and Hosu would also be a perfect IRL boyfriend.
Hosu's gonna make you
Absolutely.
breakfast.
Yeah, he's gonna make me breakfast. I'm not gonna have to work.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? I already know that my husband is friends with your husband, so that's pretty perfect.
That's actually exactly what we wanted.
Didn't even do it on purpose.
And you know what? The dynamic, I feel like pretty accurate.
Pretty accurate.
That's adorable. They'd be besties on and off the page.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys would still frequent the cafe.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It would be so peak to have a husband who owns a coffee shop, because just think of the money you would save.
Oh, 100%.
100% worth it. Would I marry June? I don't think so, because honestly, he's just giving kind of like little dick energy, and that's just me being honest. Like, as a delusional boyfriend, is he lovely? Yes. In real life, do I think he like throws it back? Not really. Not really. But
You know what? Great friend energy,
yes,
though.
he would be my best friend. So no, not an IRL boyfriend. As far as your number one delusional boyfriend goes, does this character from this story come anywhere close to touching your reverse harem delusional boyfriends?
No.
Never in a million years. We have carefully crafted our reverse harem.
This is very true.
He can take his coffee shop and shove it up his ass.
Yes,
Yeah.
you take that coffee and you run with it, but I'm not going anywhere near you when I have Jason and Sungho and Dushik.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
That's all we need.
I would definitely June. He doesn't make an IRL boyfriend. He's definitely not making it the cut against like Juicy or any of my other number ones. So definitely not dethroning anybody. So I guess that's all of the delusional boyfriend questions that I have. I do really quickly just want to tell everybody to go follow you guys, subscribe to your podcast. You have such a wealth of knowledge on this like genre and these subgenres, and trying to find a podcast that specifically talks about webcomics felt impossible to me. And as hard as I looked, it took me like 9 months after starting my social media accounts and looking for podcasts before I started my podcast. And finally I found your guys's, and it was like hitting the jackpot. So, listener, if you're hearing this, absolutely go subscribe to the ComiQueens. They're available both on Spotify and Apple Music. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go follow them, rate, review, and subscribe to them. And then they're also brand new on TikTok, so make sure you go support them there. The TikTok is so fun, and it can be brutal right when you're starting out. So go repost all of their content. Do me a favor and share everything they've made so far, and follow them on Instagram as well. And is there any other plugs I'm missing for you guys?
No, I don't think so. I am just so happy we got to do this.
Me too.
So much fun.
Thank you guys so much for coming on book club, and thank you so much for letting me volunteer you for a live action buddy watch and a buddy read of Pieta, which we decided on during our dating game episode on your guys' podcast, and for volunteering yourselves for Pearl Boy. I cannot wait for the future collaborations. I'm so happy that you guys agreed to come on. And to all you listeners out there, thank you so much for listening. It is such a joy to get to talk about these niche interests with people who are just as deep in it and just as far down the hyperfixation rabbit hole as I am. So thank you so much for listening along. Thank you, Alex and Annie, for being here. If you guys are listening to this podcast and you're not subscribed to the Delusional Boyfriend Book Club, please subscribe wherever you're listening. Or if you're on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe over there so that you never miss out on these bonus episodes that don't hit on the normal release dates. If you're all subscribed, you'll get the notification and it will auto download. And make sure to follow us, Delusional Boyfriend Book Club or Delusional BF Book Club, on all of our socials. We're on Insta and TikTok and YouTube. And I'm just so happy to have all of you guys following along. I'm so glad to have made some new friends who are creators in this same area. And until next time, remember, sometimes the delusion
is the solution.
Bye.
Bye.